Hi, welcome to the Dapple of the Day program. We've been having a lot of fun making lots of dapples, and you've got your dapples in your pattern this week. Of course, another 7 that we're going to do this week. And there's a video showing you how I've done the dappling, but I thought I'd show you this time how we get started on putting some of the blocks together, because I have told you it will be quilt as you go and we'll get it done as we go. So we've got our pile of dapples, and we've got a pile somewhere of our rectangles to go on the back of the dapples, and then we're going to press all of those on. So I'll show you how to do all of that, and then I'll show you how to join them together as well. So with the dapples, these rectangles for the backing are 1 inch larger all round than the actual dapple. So if you lay that backing, now I've got batik, so it doesn't really matter a lot which side goes down, but the right side of the fabric goes down underneath. It's going to be the back of your quilt, and obviously the wrong side of your dapple is going to sit on top there. So if you want to measure, you can use something like I'm using here with some grid lines on it, and I can see that this is lining up with the 1 inch here and 1 inch here, so it's sitting pretty close on. Now you can press it, but you will need to press it from both sides, because the fusible, if you're using this fusible batting, is on the back. So I would press that so that it's now attached, and it's a very loose fusible. It'll come away fairly easily if you want it to, and you can just re-iron it in place. So this is what you're going to do for each dapple. So we're going to make separate little units. So we're going to fold the raw edges in. So each one comes in 1/2 inch so that it's meeting the dapple, and do the short ends first. So in 1/2 inch, and before we go on to doing the longer sides, fold that over again now. So now this is where you're going to lose your 1/2 inch of your dapple all the way round. So that comes over again, and we'll press that. Now I do suggest you do all the pressing, even though it seems a little tedious, before you start sewing dapples together, simply because it's much easier if all the pressed lines are in place before we need them later on when they're all joined up in funny little bits. So we've got that so far. So now with the long sides, exactly the same thing. Bring that in to meet the dapple and press, and again over onto the dapple as well. Now it's only a bit of a rough press, we don't need to panic too much, but it's helpful to have these lines in place when it comes to putting it all together. And the last fold there. So I would do that to all my dapples. So from now on, now that you know you have to do this, you could do that as you do your dapples, so that you haven't got a big pile of them later on. And then we are going to just loosely push them back out again, but don't press it again, because we want those lines to be in the fabric. So I'll show you what we're going to do with the dapples next. So I've already done some pressing of some of my dapples. I've got a couple of them here ready to go. So what we do now is, it doesn't matter which way up they go as far as I'm concerned. It may matter to you. I would start at the top of the row in that plan that I have put in the pattern, and we keep adding dapples to it. We're starting at the top, and we're making a whole vertical row from top to bottom, and then we'll make the rows and join them up. So we'll do that. Now the other thing is, in your pattern there are some notes here that show you step by step what I'm showing you now. So we've got these. So we're going to join, this one is going to go on top, and then this one's going to go below. So we now want to put these back to back, open out those folds, and everything in an ideal world, everything fits and sits together well. What we're trying to do is sew along this line that sits level with your dapple, so that you've pressed both of those lines in, so that your raw edges should sit together. Now don't forget, if you've been doing some free motion, to pop your feed teeth up and a different foot on, and we're just going to sew right on that line, so right next to our dapple, right the way across from edge to edge. Now if you have a walking foot, that might be a good idea, and if you don't have a walking foot, then that's fine. I'm just using my regular foot here, and I'm just going to sew right the way across. So that's kind of started already, joining up our blocks. On the back you've got a nice seam there. On the front you've still got these flappy bits here. But you could now join the whole row. I might join another one on just so that you can see what I mean. And then I'll come and I'll show you how to do the little bits folding down. It's nothing terribly hard, it's just a matter of doing it. But it's kind of nice that things will be completed as you go. So again, I'm sewing, it's 1 inch down from the edge, but it should come right next to where your dapple sits. And so you could continue on down and do the whole row. Again, it's got a nice join on the back. So now on the front, because we've got these folds already in place, we can bring that, so we're going to fold that edge in like we did when we were ironing, and fold that down. And now we're going to stitch across here, so you can see why you're losing a 1/2 inch of your dapple. And we're going to stitch right close to this folded edge, but we want to start and stop where the dapple starts and stops, not right out to the edge. So you could do a little back stitch here to hold it, or a little lock stitch, whatever it is that you like to use. And if you've done a few of these together, then you could of course do the whole row doing this. And I will just do these just so that I can show you a couple of things about how I finish it off. Now one of the reasons we're stopping the stitching at the dappling is because these little other bits will be folded to the front of the quilt at some stage, and you don't really want a whole lot of funny little bits of stitching on the front of the quilt, or even on the back for that matter. So you can see these little press lines are quite helpful. Now we're going to leave the top and bottom of our rows open for the time being, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on. And also this is an edge row, we're going to leave one side. But I'll come back in another video and show you how to join the rows together when we've got a couple of rows going. Now you can see I'm cutting fairly long tails on my threads, and that's with a purpose, because I want to pull those bottom threads through. So if I lift that up and pull it through, so that when I trim those little ends off, you could tie them if you want to, but if you've done a little back stitch or tie off, you don't need to. And I'm just going to snip those ends off and just leave them maybe 1/8 of an inch, no more than 1/4 of an inch out there as well. They're going to be covered up, but you don't want any little bits of thread sticking through on the back. So just go along your row and do all that. So you can see that we've got this nice, neat and tidy on the back. You're going to see this row. So those of you who are maybe keen to use some of your decorative stitches, that's fine. But just remember, whatever you do on this part of the sewing is going to show on the back, because where we did the dapple, we haven't shown that through, because this is going to be enough stitching to hold it for quilting without distorting the quilt at all. So you can see that that's how you're going to join the rows together. Just join them along that line up close, fold these back down and stitch them down. So I've already done the rest of my row here, so this will continue on down. So you can see it's a fairly long row by the time we get it all done. So this will sit on top. And I'm just going to leave the row like that. Now don't be tempted to give this a press and press all your fold lines out at this stage either. That's a little temptation. Those fold lines that we pressed in before are still there, and we want them to be there because we'll be using them again. If you press them all out now, you'll have to repress them back in again. So it's looking pretty good. On the back it's looking pretty good. We're seeing this little line that I've got coming across where I've done the quilting, or the stitching down of the edging, which forms the quilting. And so I think it's all going to be pretty straightforward for you. As you do a dapple, you can put them on their backing. We've got a little square one to do that's part of the next row, it's exactly the same. You centre it in there, and we're going to do our same pressing all the way around, just like we have with the rectangles. So we can start making our rows, and then I'll show you another time how to put those rows together.